World of Warcraft in 2026. Midnight is about to change everything. That's right. From the Comeback Kids here, let's check this one out real quick and how World of Warcraft in 2026 is going to play a bit different than WoW has up until this point. Here we go.
The Midnight expansion is changing World of Warcraft forever. And I don't mean that in some marketing scheme way. For the first time in a long time, Blizzard isn't simply just adding content. They're changing how the game is meant to be played, how solo players progress, how hardcore players are challenged, how classes are designed top to bottom, how add-ons are treated, and how social systems actually matter.
That's a great transmog.
Again. When you put all of these changes together, Midnight does not just feel different, it represents an entire shift in the philosophy of how retail World of Warcraft is shaping its future. It started in the War Within. For the first time in many expansions, Blizzard stopped designing World of Warcraft purely around the endgame funnel, and they started caring about the entire experience of playing the game. And
yeah, so what has he got here? He's got open world experience. Well, they did add open world, that's what this says right here, to the vault. That changed a lot of things. Roleplay aspects, solo experience, story and lore walking, new and returning players, add-on purge. Look, Blizzard did talk about this in the interview with Ian Hazzikostas and Holly Longdale. Just yesterday, we watched that whole thing, and basically, they talked about meeting the players where they are. They talked about how the aging player base. They talked about players wanting to play with their kids now. Right, damn, we're so old and decrepit now. Jeez, I'm 35 and balding. I'm like young for WoW players at this point. But basically, they were talking about how all of their community now, a lot of their community has jobs. They have other things going on. So focusing just like end game rating is the main pillar of WoW. It just isn't the way to do it anymore. So they talked about all these different ways that they meet the player where the player is in their current life. I think Labyrinths is another big thing that's coming that's going to really be something that you can play and progress through on your own time. And I like it. I like kind of where the direction of things are going right now. I do like the raids because I love raiding. I'm still DGen who loves to raid in this game. I do like the kind of the new raid layout. It's not really new. It's a return to kind of things, the way things kind of were, where you're getting multiple raids in a single season. It's going to spread things out nicely. I think it's going to make the raid feel less dead towards the end of a patch cycle. So this will be nice. I'm excited to see how Midnight really plays out because they are changing a lot.
Game. And through each season, player engagement stayed higher for longer. So more people stayed logged in across the entirety of the expansion.
No, Sam, you're just old. Young for WoW players, I need to remember that. Yeah, that's what I tell myself at night. That's how I sleep better at night.
Whenever this sort of thing gets brought up, there's always the same argument that I hear, though, that World of Warcraft is getting easier, that everything is catered to casuals, or that the game has lost its difficulty. But that's not what actually has happened here. Blizzard did not lower the ceiling, they simply raised the floor. If you want World of Warcraft to be brutally difficult, trust me, it still is. High-end Mythic Plus is brutal. Mythic rating, of course, we all know is unforgiving. None of that went away. What did change, however, is how many players are allowed to reach that content without completely burning out, without needing to play 30 hours a week, or without quitting before they ever even get there. The War Within, to me, proved something very important. It's that Blizzard can support casual and solo players without sacrificing what makes World of Warcraft difficult and hardcore.
Yeah, it's a different kind of difficulty, no doubt, and it actually is a return to the basics, I feel like. It's funny when people say, oh, WoW used to be better, now we're going easy mode, when in reality, we're going back to the way WoW used to be. You see a classic raid? You ever see how many mechanics are in a classic version of a raid in this game? There's like barely any there. You got to dodge some shit and do some things, and there were other ways that the game was difficult. But in reality, it was a much simpler game. Now we went to a point where, like in Shadowlands, you had boss mechanics, 36 different boss mechanics, and 17 weak auras to tell you that the jailer was about to shoot some milk out of his nipples. Like all these different mechanics for no reason, just because of the add-on war going on, and Blizzard trying to not trivialize the entirety of boss fights via weak auras. So I think the removal of add-ons is allowing Blizzard to return to the basics, right? Get us back to a state where boss fights feel fun. They're intuitive, you understand what's going on, and you still got to do things, you're going to die, right? There's still that level of difficulty, but it's not so, destructive because of add-ons that they have to add all these complications to the fight to actually make it viable. So I think it's heading back to the basics, actually. I don't think WoW is changing that much. I think it's going back to what it was.
It isn't just adding more systems, it's giving players a real choice. You choose how far you want to push. You choose how hard the game is for you. And most importantly to me in an MMORPG, you choose how social your experience actually becomes. Usually when I pitch these sort of things, I hear the same argument as well, that World of Warcraft isn't meant to be played solo, that it's an MMORPG and shouldn't cater to solo players. That doesn't mean group content doesn't matter though, because of course we all know community is what makes an MMORPG great. But forcing players into groups does not simply create a community. And I think that's the irony here. The more Blizzard supports solo progression properly, the healthier and more social World of Warcraft actually becomes. When a player feels prepared, when they feel like they're geared up enough, and when they feel like they're comfortable and they've learned their class, they're more likely to queue up and...
No, they're going to get rejected. Don't do that. Don't do that, guys. WoW players are not nice or understanding. What are you going to... First time? Are you serious? You're going to get insta-rejected. Come on. No, in reality, though, I do like Blizzard's new kind of layout of Mythic Plus. They are trying... It seems like they're trying to get more people into Mythic Plus. Specifically, like the new tanking route system that'll be there from, like, I think it's 2 to 5, keys 2 to 5. It'll now show you the tanking layout, right? Like the next group that should be pulled. So that's a nice thing. There's all those new filters, right, for relaxed group and all this stuff. So they're trying to get people to dabble in things like Mythic Plus more. We'll see if it works, if the toxicity kind of wanes as those early keys are done early on in a patch. But the real thing is solo content is some of what just some people need these days. Some people, that's all they can do, right? We got Greg from Accounting is a living legend on this stream, and all he does is run delves, and he'll be running labyrinths very soon, and that's okay. That's an all right way to play the game, and now Blizzard's made it so you can actually gear out via that system as well. I think it's fine. Give 1,000 ways to play this game, as long as it keeps people playing the game, keeps them subbed, and we keep getting more WoW content. Why not?
Get into group content, which leads them to engage socially. And that's why Midnight doesn't feel like a casual expansion or a hardcore expansion. It just simply feels like a real World of Warcraft expansion, one that finally understands its audience and how to keep them engaged. One of the biggest reasons I think retail WoW lost so many players over the years, I think, is simple. Classes become they're overloaded. Rotations are just too much, and, playing your character starts to feel more like a job than a casual way to enjoy the game.
Yeah, I didn't care for what happened with my own class with Blood DK. It started to become very like triple resource, quad resource dependent. It was a bit ridiculous. I'm fine with the changes. Yes, is it more simple? Yes, it is. But that doesn't mean that that skill won't elevate you beyond other players. I still think that right now, the way classes are, yes, they've been simplified. A lot of them have been. But all it did was lower the floor, the barrier to entry for a lot of these classes. I still think at the high end, a really, really good player is still going to pump harder, put out bigger heals, bigger DPS numbers, and tank better on any specific class because they're just playing it better than everybody else. So I still think the ceiling can still be elevated by your skill. They're just lowering the floor. That's all they're doing. You will always have nice people and toxic people. Yeah, that just goes with life, but also with this game, of course. True, you should say, invite me, you little bitch. Yeah, that's right. That's how I work.
Retail WoW hit a point where it was so over-designed that you weren't really playing your character anymore. You were reacting to weak auras and timers and add-ons yelling at you, and when a game starts playing itself through overlays and alerts, you start to lose that connection to the world, but even your character. Now, in Midnight, we're finally seeing a massive class pruning across the board. Fewer buttons, and those buttons that you do press, they actually matter. Rotations feel like they flow again. You can look at your...
There were a lot of useless buttons, let's be honest. There was a lot of ability bloat for no reason. And it did become like World of UI craft. I watched a lot of other streamers where they would be running like plus 20 keys. Yes, they're doing high-end content, but they wouldn't know it if you didn't tell them what the hell was going on the screen. Is like just UI everywhere, and then they have a tiny little peephole that they look through to see what's going on in the game because their entire screen was covered with add-ons and UI. I personally never liked that. I always thought it was so immersion breaking to have 46 add-ons on your screen, and I'm so happy that now I could play the game without them. Is it optimal? Yet? No. But is it getting better with every single little update Blizzard puts out there? Yeah, it is. It is. I'm playing completely no add-ons right now. Raw dog in this game, and I've never liked it more. I think it's running better than ever. I think it looks fine. Is everything perfect the way I liked it when I had add-ons? No, but I think it's going to get there. So I'll continue to just push through without add-ons for now. Do you mean raising the floor? No, I mean lowering the floor. I mean, the house basically gets bigger. You could fit more people in it because the floor has been lowered, right? The barrier to entry. We got a high floor. It means a high barrier to entry. You got to jump up to get on that floor. So no, I mean lowering the floor. I think it's an easier game to get into now than it was pre all these changes.
Action bars and understand what the hell is going on without needing a YouTube guide to understand what's happening. And this change alone has brought so many players back. We see it constantly in our YouTube comments and on our live streams. People saying things like, hey, Sky, I haven't played since Wrath of the Lich King, and I haven't been this excited for retail in years. I'm really hyped to come back. Right alongside this is my personal favorite shift of this whole thing is the add-on pruning. At some point, add-ons completely took over retail WoW, and Blizzard finally acknowledged it. So now it's gotten to the point where they're redefining what add-ons should actually be for the game. They should be a minor add-on. Things like cooldown tracking, damage meters, boss timers, features players considered, honestly mandatory, in my opinion, are now being built directly into the base Blizzard UI. And this has massive, encounter design implications too, because Blizzard can now design fights around learning mechanics and execution again, instead of just assuming everyone has a stack of add-ons that's going to tell them what to do every 10 seconds. So for new players, returning players, and even long-time casual veterans, this is huge. You don't need a, big setup guide or an add-on pack and 3 external tools just to feel like World of Warcraft is functional anymore. You can just log in and play World of Warcraft. If there's one system Blizzard...
Yeah, that's true. I don't have to fucking download all these add-on updates anymore. I just go in and play. It feels great. Lowering the floor makes it further away from the ceiling. Yeah, but what I'm saying is you can get into the house of WoW easier now because the floor has been lowered. But you could still use your skill. There's still a level of skill that is required to play at the highest end of the game. That's what I'm saying. I don't think they simplified the game so much that now anybody can become a gladiator. I don't think so. Right? There's still that level of, if you really want to push this game to its limits and play out and know every single little nuance and become one of the better, players in the game, that option's still up there. There's still a high ceiling. If you really want to push those plus 20 keys and shit, yeah, there's still a very difficult end of this game. But overall, most people just want to get in and play, and now it's easier to do that. That's what my analogy is getting at. Blizzard's UI will confuse people as much as add-ons do, so that the floor has been lowered to... No, I don't think so. I don't think... And I don't get why Blizzard put damage meters up in the left corner by default. They need to fix that. But I still think overall, I already have people coming back to this game for the first time in a long time for Midnight. And a lot of them were talking about, one of them specifically asked me, what add-ons should I download? I told him, don't download add-ons. It's all in the game now. He goes, what do you mean? I told him all the shit that's in the game. He goes, oh shit, that's so much better. I don't got to go worry about this shit. And now he's going to log in, and yeah, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve to arrange things and all that, but the same with add-ons. I mean, when you downloaded a new add-on, a lot of us would sit and play around with the fucking add-on rather than play the game for 20, 50 minutes. You'd have to sit and arrange the add-on. It's the same shit. You're just doing it in the game now. Sam bragging about using no add-ons. Also, Sam logs in for 20 minutes and plays tic-tac-toe. Hey, I got that achievement. All right, I was absolutely obliterating that shit.
Absolutely nailed in the end game during this design shift. I do think it's delves. For the first time in retail WoW, solo content wasn't treated like a side activity or a warm-up like World Quest. Delves gave big rewards and let players engage with challenging content on their own terms. No group pressure, no external expectations, no timer screaming at you like you're in Mythic Plus, just you, your character, and the game. Blizzard clearly saw the numbers on how well delves performed, and instead of treating them as a one-off experiment, they're actually doubling down on delves in Midnight. During the recent State of Azeroth...
You act like add-ons are so hard to use. It's not that they're hard to use, but you gotta remember, Daganja, you're a fucking degenerate. I'm a degenerate. Everybody you're watching Twitch, you're on Twitch watching a person play WoW. You're not the normal person, okay? You are somebody who's very connected to WoW. You're connected to the community. You're connected with add-ons and everything else. But you're not the average person. If I tried to get my wife to play WoW, and I could just tell her, hey, install the game and start playing, that's a much better experience for her and for anybody else maybe who's returning to the game than telling her, hey, install the game, but also download this thing called CurseForge, but also search for these 4 add-ons, but also after you do that, make sure you configure them, but also every day when you log in, make sure they're up to date or it'll break shit. Okay? That's what you got to do now to get, and then you can get to level 2. Do all that first, then you can start leveling. I just think like that's not a good experience. Not only that, it was affecting game design. It was like we are going to get, trust me, we are going to get so many cool mechanics for boss fights now that we haven't seen before and haven't seen since vanilla for some of them, because they don't have to worry about them being trivialized by add-ons and weak auras anymore. I think we're going to get really cool shit out of this. And no, I'm not being a Blizzard shill, all right? Any of you guys have been watching me for like the last 5 years know I've been bitching about add-ons for a freaking half a decade now. Literally, I've been talking about how much I fucking hate add-ons. So this add-on removal, if anything, Blizzard's a shill for Samiccus. That's why all this shit happened. And it's the other way around.
Stream, Blizzard confirmed that labyrinths are coming later in Midnight, and these are pretty much just solo mega dungeon experience built on the Delve foundation. From everything we've seen, we're just assuming here this looks like a weekly raid-like solo experience, layers of bosses,
awesome.
rooms, puzzles,
Labyrinths look awesome.
Loot and progression, but to me, I think this is the real future of World of Warcraft content design. Purpose-built endgame experiences for players who want some depth and challenge without, of course, the constant obligation of group play. If you've played Delves, you know how good they can be, so seeing them evolve into something closer to like a solo raid weekly experience for Midnight is exactly what I've been looking for as a player. Not only that, I think World of Warcraft in general for retail WoW is becoming substantially more social again. Let me ask you something, ladies and gentlemen. If you're an old school MMORPG player, what makes a good MMORPG? I think it's things like this, when it's not all the time about player power, PvP, Mythic Plus timers, raiding, item level, currencies. You make the players feel attached to the world.
I was going to say, it's the world. A really good MMORPG has an amazing world. At the end of the day, an MMORPG is about kind of disconnecting from our world and going to something more fantastical, more fantasy-based, more, right? So the world, when the world is good and well-built and intricate and there's adventure around every corner, that's what makes a really good MMORPG. And then add to the fact that you can do those adventures with your friends or with other people. Now you're talking about, that brings the massive multiplayer part into it. So yeah, so for me, it's always been a very good, well-built world. Add into that really good combat systems, really cool stories and lore, and then you got yourself a nice package of a good MMORPG.
Rather than some content they're completing. That is what makes a true MMORPG, and that's why I fell in love with them in the first place. It's not a Call of Duty kill streak match, it's a living, breathing world. I know you've heard it a million times already, but player housing is one of those features. World of Warcraft is shifting back toward being a place that's not just an instance simulator. Housing gives players an actual identity and real stake in World of Warcraft. It's beyond just gearing up and item levels and currencies at that point. It gives you something that exists outside of raid nights and Mythic Plus timers, and more importantly, it gives people a reason to log in when they're not even trying to chase player power. Midnight's not all about making content more accessible, it's about making communities frictionless. I feel like this is how World of Warcraft becomes truly social again in the modern day and age, where you can build and grow friendships actually over time. It's sort of what made WoW special for me in the first place. They want to grow that actual World of Warcraft. I think also one of the biggest things that's getting overlooked in Midnight on really how important it actually is, Blizzard is actually committing and updating the old Azeroth in meaningful ways. Eversong Woods and Silvermoon are getting complete overhauls.
And this might not be it. This might not be the end of it. Ian already said they're going to really pay close attention to how the player base reacts to this revamp, because they basically revamped the entirety of the upper half of the Eastern Kingdoms. So that's a huge area to get completely redone. It took a lot of work on their part, and if the player base reacts really well to it, Ian said there will be more of this. Like, if they like it, if you guys like it, we're going to listen to your feedback. If you guys like what we did here, we're going to do more of it. So that's exciting to hear because there are many more zones in Azeroth that I would love to see brought up to current WoW standards, right? Like, I'm not talking about going and putting Unreal Engine 5 on this shit, making it look like it's not WoW anymore. But, like, this looks very different from, say, Ungoro Crater right now. You put those two side by side, they don't even look like the same game anymore. Ungoro Crater looks like it's fucking, you might as well put it with Pac-Man in terms of graphics. Okay, it's really bad if you go look at that shit. So seeing something like that brought up to this standard, I think would be really cool. And I hope they go revamp the entire world like they did for this.
Technically, narratively, and top to bottom, visually, a complete remaster. And trust me, it's a lot more important if you listen carefully to what we're about to say. For years, World of Warcraft has a weird identity. We go through an expansion, the story moves forward, but the entire rest of the world just stays stagnant. It's like frozen in time. Midnight WoW is starting to break that curse. Updating these zones and Silver Moon City proves something much bigger is happening here. It means that Blizzard is no longer scared to touch these legacy zones and make them relevant in story and moderation again. It makes them feel like a living, breathing part of the world that changes through time. And according to Blizzard's own comments in a recent interview, this is not meant to just stop with Silver Moon City. They've made it very clear that Stormwind and Orgrimmar are on the table long term as a massive overhauls and remasters. Coming in The Last Titan, we already know for a fact that Northrend is changing drastically. We know now that Midnight is a bridge expansion where Blizzard starts laying the groundwork for a world that evolves over time instead of just simply resetting every expansion. So when you add things like massive world updates, guild and community housing, cross-faction systems, and a long-term progression, all of a sudden it feels like we're not playing some sort of instance theme park simulator, and it actually feels like a living, breathing world again. Cities matter, zones matter, and more importantly, the history behind them matters. So now at this point, I think we ask ourselves, okay, where are we going from here? What does this all even mean? And how does this affect us and set up for what's coming next? Now, heading into Midnight, we got an all new, of course, Devour spec being added to the Demon Hunter, as well as Apex talents being added for every spec in the game. We got the all new Prey system, which is something they hopefully continue to expand on, where you accept a hunt, and from that moment on, out in the world, while you're questing, exploring, or doing content, you have a boss hunting you in the open world that you need to defeat. You got the brand new transmog overhaul where your appearance adapts.
I was more excited for the Prey system, and then I saw how it kind of plays out, which is basically like you got to kill some mobs in an area to cause the boss to spawn. That was the way I kind of understood it, and at first I thought like, oh, you activate this Prey system, and at any moment, no matter what you're doing, this random boss could spawn on you, and you got to kill him. That's what I was hoping it would be. It looks more like you got to cause the boss to spawn. So it's not as spontaneous as I originally thought it was going to be. I could be wrong, but that was how I understood it. It was like you're going to kill a bunch of mobs, fill up a bar, and then bam, boss spawns.
To your gameplay, you can now have outfits that automatically change and activate based on what content type you're doing, whether you're entering a delve, stepping into PvP, running a dungeon, raiding, or simply just chilling in your house. Your character will visually respond to the world, and from a roleplay perspective, I think it's amazing. These sort of things make me feel like Blizzard is trying to rebuild that emotional connection players have to their characters, and for someone like me who's a total nerd for, you know, all the characters on my account personally, I love it. We have the new Heronir allied race, brand new single boss raids being released mid-season, which they've never done before in retail WoW, and not only that, PvP is finally getting some big updates. I think we can all agree in retail, PvP has been in a pretty bad spot for a while, but due to the class...
Honestly, I really enjoyed playing PvP again at the end of this season. You guys watched me absolutely crush and dominate the competition. It was wonderful. You know, my Gladiator days are behind me. I know that. Season 2 and 3 were a long time ago, back when I got Gladiator, but I will say, it was fun. It was a lot of fun to get back into it, and I think PvP deserves more love. I do. And it's going to get it, looks like, in Midnight. We're getting literally an open world PvP thing in that final zone, that big purpley voidy zone that we're getting. So we'll see how it all feels when we play it. But I'm glad Blizzard's actually giving some attention to PvP again. I think it deserves it.
Pruning, add-on changes, and everything else, things are definitely improving. Not only that, we get the Slayer's Rise brand new 40v40 large-scale epic battleground.
Yeah,
and this is directly inspired by battlegrounds like Alterac Valley and Isle of Conquest. Not only in size, but in gameplay type and philosophy. Out in the world, you also have the Void Storm Zone,
Kellic, thank you for the follow, man. Welcome to our Scourge.
which is a PvP-enabled outdoor space with points of conflict and stuff like that. And I think overall, when you pair this class clarity, the add-on pruning, the solo-friendly progression, and stronger social systems being put in WoW, suddenly PvP is starting to feel like it's belonging a little bit more and more in the ecosystem, because as of lately, it hasn't felt great. I feel like the future of WoW is genuinely, truly bright. Something that's reshaped personally how
Edgar, thank you for the sub, man. Thank you for the Prime. Death Knight of our Scourge. Appreciate that, man.
I play drastically is their 8-week content cadence, which is pretty much every 8 weeks in retail WoW, we get a patch update. And
they have stuck to it. I mean, these roadmaps have been gospel, honestly. Like, they are sticking to these. They don't let this shit. Now, have we gotten some patches that, yeah, they probably could have used another week or two of polish before they dropped them? Yeah, that's happened. But hopefully they get better at testing patches before they actually launch. For the most part, though, I feel like these roadmaps have been awesome. Ever since they started to give these to us, it's been like so refreshing. You always feel like there's something coming around the corner. They always update them. So right now, like 12.1 just says new shit. But they will slowly update this so that way we actually start to know what this shit's going to be by the time 12.1 gets really close to launching. So this is exciting. And yes, every 8 weeks, it's felt like a good cadence for content.
Us content and change.
It almost feels fast at times, to be honest. But it's all right. It feels good.
Changes. Instead of just having massive droughts followed by content overload out of nowhere, Blizzard now has a nice solid rhythm with new systems, new story beats, and challenges without demanding that you know-life the game to keep up with something like this. The game is designed to be lived in so you can engage in it deeply, casually, socially, competitively, I mean, however you want, even solo if you want. And the game moves forward with you instead of leaving you behind. And I think in 2026, that's a pretty damn big deal as a player who doesn't really have much time to play. I think Midnight is setting up that next saga. It isn't meant to be a standalone expansion, and Blizzard is truly laying the groundwork here. The old world is going to get updated. In The Last Titan, we know Northrend is changing, and now we're seeing a version of WoW where the world will progress with us. Combining all of this together doesn't have me just look at the next expansion. We're looking at Blizzard redefining what modern WoW is supposed to be. And that's why I think Midnight isn't just exciting. It's all super, super intentional. Because for World of Warcraft Midnight, everything will change for this game in 2026 forever. Hey everybody, thanks for watching.
Big changes.
If you enjoyed the content, consider subscribing or check out one of the videos you see on screen here to stay up to date on all things Warcraft. My name's Sky for the Comeback Kids. It's an absolute pleasure to make content for you all. I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, nice video overall, and I agree. A lot of these changes coming into effect, like Midnight's bringing a lot of changes beyond just new raid, new dungeons. There's a lot of new systems, changes to the way the game will play, and I think they're all changes for the better for the most part. So, nice video from the Comeback Kids. Looking forward to Midnight launching for sure.